Hi, I'm Ashy and I'm doing another monochromatic painting today. I start this one like all of the monochromatic paintings in this series by just wetting up the entire page generously and then putting in a very, very watery pale wash of color. For this one, I did use a clean, really minimally damp brush to lift out a circle in the center for a sun. Oh, and this painting only took me 35 minutes from start to finish, so this is a really fast one. So while building up the colors in the sky, I continue to lift out that circle, even blotting it with the towel a little bit to maintain that glowy sun look. I do add some streaks of color in front of the sun to look like clouds, and I also add just a little bit of darkness around the edge of the sun after I kind of blot it to dry the area so it won't bleed a ton. And that really just kind of defines the sun a little bit more. Other than that, the sky really is just watery paint dropped onto a watery background, and that just really gets some interesting, like splotchy, variable textures. Nothing super crazy, just making sure it all stayed really wet. And then I use a heat tool to dry the layers because I'm super impatient and I won't wait for them to dry, and then it'll just become a mess. So after that, I add the land, and I basically just start with like two squiggly lines for the banks of the river, and then I put in like a messy wash of color on either side. So I'm really not worried about getting a consistent, like uniform wash of color here. I'm going to be building up more layers, and I also want a variety of values in the land anyway so that it doesn't just look flat. So really not worried about it. So then in front of the sun, I also put in a layer of something color, and it starts darker toward the top, and then at the bottom it kind of fades out to almost white. And this can be interpreted as more clouds, trees, mountains, whatever, but it's just something to kind of block the sunrise a little bit, and it just adds a little bit of interest, but it's really abstract. So then I start to deepen up some of the kind of mid-ground here, and that just creates a little bit of contrast between the background and the mid-ground. And then I darken up, really focusing on the banks of the river just to create depth and contrast there. And as we come forward closer to us or down on the page, the colors get a little bit more dark and the size of the shadows get a little bit larger. And that helps to create that illusion of depth on, of creating 3D on a two-dimensional page. For the land on the sides, I just start to build up some layers here and just kind of randomly make some areas darker so that they look like they're shadowed areas, and other areas I keep lighter, and that again makes the land appear like it has undulations and it's like a little bit hilly instead of just being flat. And I'm really not being super intentional here with the placement of the shadows. I'm just trying to create variety. So just some areas are darker, other areas are lighter. And again, this is a much more like abstract painting, so I'm not worried about trying to create anything super realistic. I finally add a little bit of reflection into the water, so I'm just using dry brushing horizontally, and then I use a very slightly damp brush to kind of blend that out. But you see, I dried it first, and then I blend it out a little bit. So because I dried it first, it doesn't blend out a lot, but it softens it just slightly to make it look like water, but leaves a lot of the texture. Then I just add a little bit more darkness to the banks in the front because it was just feeling a little bit too flat, and I didn't feel like there was any area that had a lot of contrast, so I decided to put the most contrast there in the front. And last but not least, just some super, super faint birds in the sky. And these are basically just little V's and upside down V's. Super, super simple, going for a really light wash of color here so that they look like they're super far away. And that is really it. So this one was super fun, easy, and really quick. I really hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to check out the rest of my monochromatic paintings just to see how changing up the value can really create some very interesting paintings. Have an awesome day.